All right, thanks. Yeah. Let's do our next, I'm not quite sure what this is. There we go. Okay, let's move this up here. Maybe. So what has been your best consulting experience and your worst? And you don't have to answer both, but
I guess I can start and go back.
You
Go
got
back the other direction. Best consulting experience has really been my first client here with Slalom. Was started out as a 6-month project. I guess a victim of success is they just keep ringing up, and we're almost going on 2 years now for being with this client 40 hours a week. So they've been awesome. Their team's been awesome. I've really enjoyed it. So I have to say that's my best. My worst, since I've only had a limited amount of clients, was when I was on the client side. We worked with some consultants that they weren't delivering. Their team wasn't really paying attention. It was just a bad overall experience. And so that at least gave me the experience of saying, hey, this is how not to be a consultant. So the only thing I can really take from that is it was a bad example to learn from. And so, but other than that, I haven't had any bad experience being a consultant yet. So I'm sure it'll come at some point.
Maybe a lot of the best consulting experiences will have sort of similar outcomes, right? You have a great group of people, maybe you have developed a solution, so it all works out really well. But what I can maybe share is the situations when I wouldn't say they are the worst consulting experiences, but factors that lead to it not being so smooth. So for example, going into an engagement and being ready with your plan, you've got your plan ready with all of your steps, and then realizing that the group with whom you are working with, we really have no idea of why you're there. Your project champion maybe isn't even bought in, even though they were paying for you right now on day one. They're not totally bought into your purpose there. And so it ends up being like you've got to sell yourself on the first, 2 weeks. First sell the purpose of the project and what it is that you're aiming to do, and get them on board before you even get to the team and start discovering what it is that how it is that you're going to implement the solution to the plan. So I think about those types of scenarios, and I think to myself, how could I have known that? How could I have been better prepared? Some of the pre-engagement calls might have helped me do that, but sometimes even those you don't get that until you're actually on site with the client and you realize that, oh, we are not at step one, we are way back. So I think maybe the lesson for me was just, you may have a plan, but just be prepared to pivot, right? Pivot to even before that plan begins.
I'll share a story about my favorite project that I've gotten to work on so far. So to explain this is how I explain my job to people who don't know anything about it. I say that consulting is kind of like therapy for other businesses. So a business brings in their problem, and then we do research to figure out what the problem is, and then we analyze our research, and then we put it in a presentation and give them a suggestion. So what I got to do focused on that gathering research side. We do Cicero focuses a lot on market research, so we will do the research end of getting quantitative data, like writing a survey, sending out a survey, getting people to take it, and then we analyze those numbers, because the big focus in our company is data-driven strategy. So getting quantitative numbers that we can analyze and get a strategy that we suggest to the client. And so this is still probably my first month or two, and I had never really written a survey before. I didn't really know anything, and they asked me if I could put together the survey, and it was me and a senior partner on the project. So that's like the lowest you can be and the highest you can be. And I didn't want to tell them I didn't know how to do it. So I just figured I would get some resources from other people and figure it out. And then I was able to put together a product that I was really proud of. And I grew a ton in the week that it took me to do it, because I felt like I did, all of the work of several years of learning about it, but all just squeezed into a couple days. And like Anthony mentioned, one of the most exciting parts of the job is that you get to become a subject matter expert on something. So I didn't know it was for a client in the university higher education space, which is a focus of Cicero's work, one of them. And I didn't really know anything about that specific aspect of higher education, but I got to do research and I got to become an expert. And then eventually got to get on a call with the client, and I was able to defend what I'd done and explain everything. And it was exciting to feel like an expert talking to these clients who had worked in that space for a long time, and to know that they respected my opinion, and I got to be really proud of what I shared. And that was the best experience I'd had, just because I was so proud of what I'd done at the end. And I really was confident in the work that I had come to know how to do.
Keep on going down the line here, if that's okay with you. So I really have had a hard time thinking of a worst experience for me. There have been some projects that are that have been less interesting, less challenging, or along those lines. But through every project, I've learned something. So I have a hard time labeling something the worst. So I'll try to answer the first question on the best. And I can talk about this with some client names because it's been in the public domain, and the client has given approval to talk about this and everything. But we did, let's see, 2 years ago now, actually a year and a half ago. So it was after COVID, before the vaccine, right before when the vaccine was coming out. The state of California had hired Accenture to help them roll out the solution whereby they would distribute vaccine to providers and to local health jurisdictions at the county. And then also the solution whereby the providers, whether that's the counties, the local health jurisdictions, or providers, would monitor and track and submit the vaccines that they're giving to people. And then it would also be a consumer facing or patient facing application, so that residents of California could go to this site and search for available appointments near them to go get their COVID vaccine. So the reason that this was the best experience for me, I'll try to cut more to the punchline here, is because it was an opportunity to lead, for at least for me personally, in the role that I was asked to play, to lead a team of teams on a project that was very meaningful for my client and for the community at large. So what I mean by team of teams is Accenture was the contractor for the state of California, California Department of Public Health, and the California Department of Technology. Those two state departments were working together to bring this COVID vaccine solution to the residents of California. On the ordering supply side, it was called MyCAVax. That was the solution that doctors and counties would use to order and manage the supply of the vaccine. And on the consumer facing side, it was called MyTurn. The solution was MyTurn, so that you could go in and register for appointments to get your 2-dose vaccine. At the time, Governor Newsom wanted and actually said that there was going to be a third-party administrator to help the state manage the distribution of the vaccine. And that third-party administrator was Blue Shield of California, health insurer. So we were working for the state, but the governor had called in this TPA, third-party administrator, Blue Shield. So we now had basically two masters and two bosses. Blue Shield hired their own consulting firm, a very reputable firm, to come and be their partner on helping them organize their work. And then they actually hired another consulting firm in addition to that one to help them with other aspects of the work, because this was such a large and massive undertaking that they weren't staffed to do it at the pace and at the scale that we needed to, because this was in January of 2021, in February, March, when demand for the vaccine was very high and supply was very constrained, and we needed to move quickly. So the role that I played was kind of at the center of, just because of the nature of what we were doing, I was responsible for rolling out the program whereby we would enroll providers, thousands of providers in the state and all 61 health jurisdictions onboard into the solution and train them and track our performance in terms of getting providers on the solution. How many shots were they giving per day, per week? How is that utilization going up and trending? And so on that project, I had twice daily calls with people from the state, CDPH, CDT, Blue Shield, McKinsey, EY, and other consulting firms, smaller consulting firms in the state of California, as well as the California Medical Association and many different organizations, and then providers too. And it was all about how we're kind of managing the rollout of this solution. We worked together as this large cross-sectional, cross-functional team for months. And that was like, we felt like we were all going through the trenches together because of just the pace and the demands and the pressure that was on all of us, from the public eye. But it was one of the best experiences I've had. Just the fact that we were able to, I would call up my friends and associates at McKinsey, and we would troubleshoot something for Blue Shield and the state of California. And there wasn't this kind of animosity or weirdness or competitiveness. And then same thing on the with us and EY. And then just the relationships were just really great all the way around. And that was such a unique thing. I think because maybe of the nature of the work of trying to, this was a public health emergency and priority. And so it was so fun. And I thought that was a great experience.
All really great answers. I think you can tell everybody has had so many different exposures to different industries, which is kind of really the beauty of consulting as well. I'll second what Anthony said with regards to the worst engagement that I've ever had, or worst client, in the sense that there's always a learning to be had, and you're working in client services, so you're client facing. And so there's always another party involved that you have no control over, that's kind of your boss for the next 12 to 16 weeks. And they all have different personalities. Even within the same team, you might have a different point of contact on a vertical that, is super chill and loves everything you're doing. And then their client lead or executive sponsor absolutely drills into you, and you're like, how do I manage this? So you have to size people out. I'll start with the worst, because it ended up being a very positive experience, and then I'll go into the best engagement I've ever had. But the worst was just a client that had recently, and we saw this a lot in the last couple of years, had raised a lot of money, so they had cash to burn, and they came in with a very open-ended question where it's right now we do X, but we want to use this capital to diversify and create new revenue streams based on the capacity and the skill set that we have in our network and name. What should we do? And the problem is, initially, I'll rephrase, it's we want to do this. Is this a good idea? So we went all in, and we're we'll do that. And then over time, it was a year-long project, or kind of a retainer basis, and they just kept changing their mind. They didn't know what they wanted. People kept cycling in and out of the team. They kept firing people and hiring people. That made it really hard. And I kind of got into this funk where I was just show up once a week, and we'll just give them a market, a landscape analysis, and call it good. And, no one really cared what we did. We weren't really being held accountable. And I've always hated the reputation or the kind of stereotype sometimes that consultants just want to sell you things, right? So I wanted to make sure that we create value. And my director saw this, and he gave me amazing feedback. He's no, he had a way that he wanted to do things. We wanted to deliver value. And so what ended up happening is we had a very serious conversation with the client and said, hey, we don't feel like we're very valuable to you right now with this. So we morally and financially speaking, we want to kind of put this agreement to rest and kind of stop the engagement. That kind of jolted them into action, and we reframed the statement of work. We reframed the purpose, and it became way more fun. They became way more engaged, and it came from really, I learned two things, which is like you have a responsibility to deliver value, and two, you know, you don't stop at just giving them, you know, data that they can Google themselves. It's like, what's the so what? That's what you come in is you really want to give them like, this is what it means to your business. This is why it should matter to you. This is how you can take advantage. This is how it creates a competitive advantage, right? So that was a really lousy 6 months that turned out into like one of the best lessons that I ever learned. And then super briefly, the best project that I've ever been on, and similarly to what was just mentioned, this is public knowledge, so I'm happy to share the client. So we were engaged by Royal Caribbean, the cruise line company. As you know, ships were docked. CDC said no sailing after a Royal Caribbean ship ended up with 100+ sick passengers on board. So they were kind of facing an uphill battle, and they said, hey, we need to go back to sail, but we need to build, you know, goodwill. We need to kind of revamp our image and make sure that the public feels safe and prove that it can be safe. So we were engaged to create predictive risk models. And so what we did is we analyzed, they have amazing data. They're like really on top of it. They had data for passenger flow. They had data for, you know, different cruises at different times, who walked from what point to what point on the ship at what time. It was crazy. I was like drowning in data. But us and a team of 2 other analysts that were fresh out of school, they were awesome. We created a population spread model. So we used a Monte Carlo simulation to create a population spread model for them that was like customizable to the ships, so they can like roll it out on different ships. We had Johns Hopkins come and validate it. We had Milliman, which is actuarial company. They're like, oh yeah, this is pretty good. Like this works. And we're like, oh, cool. And so we were here presenting to like the director of the CDC with the CEO of Royal Caribbean and all the CEOs of other cruise line companies. And I was like a year out of grad school, and it was just awesome. They asked us for more models. We built airborne propagation models. So like if you're in a room, and what are the chances that there's a sick person, and what happens to everybody around them under different circumstances, like masks, no masks, social distancing, no social distancing. Super cool. That project ended up being picked up by Mike Levitt, who then, of course, founded Levitt Partners, but is now the president of the Tabernacle Choir. And he was like, I wonder if we could use this to see if we can bring back the choir after COVID. And we did. We used it. And so we brought it to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, who you probably have driven past, and talked to their general bishop, who's kind of leads the whole operations of the church. And he's like, all right, tell me what's happening. And we use the model to show that the choir could come back. So really, I think what this shows is that like, whether it's a public health emergency, or, you know, a higher education need, or you're doing a big operational transformation, you're really at the cutting edge of what's happening. And it's really cool. And, you know, you're answering questions that no one else is answering. Like no one knows the answer. So whatever you come up with, you know, might as well be as good as what anybody else would come up with. So some cool things about consulting.
Just a comment. I want to sit behind the desk with you guys, because that's where I live my life, and I'm loving hearing your experiences. And one of the things you'll find is you're in there possibly solving an analytical problem, but the real issue is a social issue in terms of the relationship with your client, and who owns the problem, and who's the sponsor. If you don't have the sponsor, and it's not clear who owns the problem, then it really gets messy. So we'll be going through all that when we go through the class on consulting skills in the process of consulting, but you guys are giving great examples.
Yeah. Well, I want to open it up now to everyone else. And I mean, panelists too, you can ask questions if you want. Let's make it fair game. But do you guys have questions that you'd like answered?
I've heard a lot of you kind of say that you started in some persuasion. I guess that's at least my concern, or a lot of students I've talked to about consulting. They're like, I just have to make sure I get the right field right now. And they kind of just and then find it, or something, you know, where you go back that.
Holding the mic, so I might as well take a stab super briefly. I think there's 2 ways to go about it.
I don't know if that's working anymore. Maybe
Oh.
try this.
All right. Can you guys, is that working? Nope. Was the other one better or worse? Let's do like a max diff analysis.
How about this one?
Okay. Maybe it's working. Maybe they just, I don't
This
know.
one- Is this one working?
What if we use both, just for the?
Like a
Here's, yeah, there you go. Just, I feel like
How many
a,
consultants does it take?
like an NBA player. I think of Gobert when like Corona started, and he was like, "Is this working?" and got everybody sick. So I don't know. I don't know. This is, this isn't necessarily the answer, but it's, I think, an answer that I can come up with is there might be different ways to do it. Some firms, like was mentioned, are work across many different industries, doing many different things. And then some firms are more specialized in an industry or a type of work. And so I would say maybe start with how you feel, the strongest inclination. I had a strong inclination for technology and data science, and I kind of knew that Deloitte had that reputation. And then as I progressed and got involved in some COVID stuff, I was like, wow, I don't know anything about healthcare, and I'm really intrigued. And then the opportunity at Love It Partners came about, and I've loved that. And so I don't know that you need to stick with your first choice or your second or your third, but maybe a good place to start is like, what draws me in the most? What appeals to me the most? Is it industry? Is it skill set? And take it from there.
For example, like I like finance. That's why I love finance. So is it something where like I go into finance work, like that's not what it is, and I go somewhere else? Like, is it fairly easy to kind of switch between that side of the firm?
Go ahead.
So at a firm like I'll speak from my experience at Accenture. We have practitioners who are focused on, let's say, the CFO and enterprise value agenda. Sounds like one of them just kicked in. Sounds like this one.
They're all working now.
All working. All right. Can I still hold two?
This one. There's one more.
Makes me feel so powerful to hold two microphones. So we have practitioners who focus on the CFO agenda and portfolio, and those are typically people who have a finance background and who work on analyses to generate, create, add, enhance enterprise value. So people with your background would be the ideal, background for people in our practice. Now, to your question around, is it easy to kind of move between? It's possible. Accenture is such a big place that people reinvent their careers many times over the course of a long career. And part of that is somewhat natural, right? Like we're always trying to stay ahead of what the market is doing, what industries are doing. And so we're trying to advance ourselves and add value to our clients. Some of it is just maybe your interests or your hobbies. And so for me, like I mentioned earlier, I used to focus primarily on one industry, which happened to be healthcare. And after a period of time, after that experience at the state of California, I was wanting to try something new outside of health. And so now I've been on a couple of different projects that are totally different from healthcare. It's like HR technology. And I'm finding a lot of value in that, and it's fun and challenging. Generically, though, I would answer your earlier question in the sense that it's not just about getting one type of talent or experience. I think there's a lot of market power for individuals when you can stack or multiply your talents. So if you were to combine a consulting skill, which you're hopefully getting right through this type of program, and maybe through an internship, and add to that your finance skill, and maybe you have an internship through the course of your undergraduate career that you do a finance internship, you add those two skills together, you become much more marketable to someone like an Accenture who has a finance practice. And so we're hiring finance consultants. And then if you add even yet another talent, you can just go through the potential marketable talents or qualifications that are out there, if you add something like blockchain technology to that talent stack, you become immensely marketable and in demand. So I would just encourage you to think about what talents you have and think about them in terms of a talent stack and how you can multiply your marketability by adding to that talent stack. And some talents are multipliers, not additive, right? They create more opportunities when you combine them.
I think I'll just echo that you wouldn't have to choose right away at the start. One of the things that we have at our company is essentially like a choose your own adventure model, where as you begin the company, there are going to be things that you are really proficient at, maybe you have advanced knowledge of, and naturally those are the types of clients that you are assigned to, or that those are the types of projects that you might lead. But you also have the option of exploring other fields, other roles in the company, which is something that I'm doing now. I'm trying to lean into the technology side of our practice. And so, getting some opportunities to play more of a role in solution ownership, or play more of a role in actually solution development. Those are some of the things that were interesting to me. And so I'm being given the opportunities that will help me explore that, help me build skills like you did. And then maybe if I like it, advance me to, give me more opportunities to advance the skills in that role. Or maybe if I don't like it, I'll go explore something else. But in the meantime, I'm still adding value to the company by providing the knowledge and skills that I have in the domain in which I have experience in. But I like being given the opportunity to explore something else, because we're not static, right? Like we have interests that will probably, I'm interested in this now, but 5 years from now, don't know, I might be wanting to explore something else. So at least I think anyway that for the majority of the companies, you will have that flexibility to explore other roles as you grow, which will keep you engaged too, right? It's a win-win. So great for the company and great for you.
Don't do that. Okay. So with, consulting, you're going to have hard days where you don't really want to wake up and go to work. What kind of excites you about consulting that gets you, okay, I'm still going to go into work today, besides the paycheck, of course?
Take the first step. For me, it's my team. I genuinely love the people I work with. I mean that in the sense that I have a great team under me. I have a great team of peers, and I have a great team above me in terms of like managing directors, senior managing directors. And no, I don't, not every person that I've ever worked with falls into that category. And I'm on a large team right now, both above, below, beside. But in terms of the core people I get to work with all the time, I really enjoy working with these people. And so that's what motivates me. And then just the work itself, like I like being able to solve the problems that we're solving for this particular client right now. And I actually, I know it sounds kind of corny, but I actually look forward to signing on to work every morning, because I feel like there's fun problems to solve and fun puzzles to address.
Yeah. Can you guys hear me okay? Or both working? Oh, yeah. I was gonna say, maybe we can actually split, have one on that, and then
Yeah.
that is a good question. I wholeheartedly second what he said about the team. I think clients come and go. but your team and the people you work with, being surrounded with people and the culture of the firm and the kind of people they're hiring and the bonds you create by working, reasonably long hours together on hard things, is super, super fun and super exciting. I will also say, I think I mentioned a little bit about being a self-starter, being self-driven. There's going to be projects that are super fun. There's going to be other projects that are not as fun. And sometimes it's just the way the pipeline goes. By stacking your skill set, you can become more in demand and get maybe staffed on more fun things, right? But the other thing is, you have to have, and you'll be asked this in consulting interviews, like, why consulting? What's your plan? How does this fit in? Have a plan, like, what's your 5-year plan? What's your 10-year plan? I think once you have like that long-term perspective, it's a lot easier to get motivated and be like, okay, what can I learn from this engagement, even if I don't enjoy it right now? That's going to like add to my plan. That's going to add to my skill set or to my experience and make me a more well-rounded individual. And then the third thing that I might add is, find something that's not client deliverable that gets you excited about your company. I love the recruiting aspect. And I also love, we started a case study competition at the U this year. And that was something that I came to my manager, my director, and I said, hey, I want to do this. And he supported it. So find ways that like you can grow outside of the client deliverable stuff, I think is also meaningful.
I'll echo the same thing. I should have gone first so that my answer sounded original, but really the thing that I like best is the team that I work with and the people around me at the office. I was talking to a friend the other day and I was explaining to them, I was really surprised that everybody seems really happy to go into the office every day, because my impression was that once you get a job, things get kind of boring and then it's like a drag to go to work, 8 or 10 hours a day. But I've been really impressed with how motivated everybody around me is, and they set the tone for me, because I see these people who have been working there a lot longer, who have a lot of experience, and they're genuinely excited about their work that they do, and they want to provide the best for the client. And so that has set a good tone for me. And I also like the people that I work with, and I know that they rely on me. It's interesting to be a contributor to a team and start to see that I'm important to the team. And if I were to start slacking off, that people would notice. And also, one thing I've really specifically appreciated about Cicero is there's a strong culture of giving feedback. And it scared me at first because I didn't want anybody to tell me I was doing anything wrong. And then I've started to learn that I grow a lot faster, and it helps me see that other people in the company are invested in me. They want to let me know that I'm doing well and celebrate me when I'm succeeding. And then also they care about me enough to give me feedback. Even when I was interviewing, they gave me feedback in the interview. It was just like company procedure, and it was a little bit overwhelming, but I've noticed that I've been growing really fast there, and I've started to see personal development. And now it's gone to the point where I give people in my life feedback. I'm like, I love what you're doing here, but if I could just get a little bit of feedback for you, and I think they get overwhelmed. But I've started to really grow, and I appreciate that there's a specific culture at Cicero. I've been impressed that the senior leadership has been really thoughtful about the kind of culture that they want to create. So everybody's speaking the shared language of supporting each other. Like, this is the kind of workplace that we want to create. And now it's getting to the point where I'm trying to implement it in my own life. And I think I'm creeping out my friends and family that I'm talking about consulting all the time. But I think that I like going to work every day because I actually feel like I'm becoming a better person just because of the people I'm surrounded by.
Well, all right, I will answer. Yeah. Well, actually, I was thinking, I'm not sure necessarily that I've found like days where I dread going to work, but when I lose sleep, which sounds like terrible, right? You're losing sleep because of a work thing. Why? No, don't do that. But when I lose sleep is when I'm thinking about a particular issue that I'm trying to work out. And sometimes that solution comes in the midst of like sleep and wake. And I have found myself like writing myself a note on the phone or something when at 2 o'clock in the morning, I think of an idea about something that I've been thinking about. So it's not something that, it's not something that you really plan on losing sleep or thinking about things beyond 5 o'clock. But in a sense, it's also really engaging, right? Really satisfying that your brain's figuring this out, and then you identify it, and maybe it works when you implement it, maybe it doesn't. But even that activity of trying to figure it out is satisfying in and of itself, is what maybe breaks me out of the funk of not knowing what the solution is for that issue. So I suppose for me, just being engaged about the thing that I'm doing is what drives me to be there day to day.
I'll add on a little bit. Yeah, I'll try to be short and sweet. I have 3 young kids at home, so it's kind of relaxing to start working. No, but honestly, the thing that just talking to me every day for every project that you're going to wake up and be excited, but most of the time it is, because when you're buying in with your clients and you're working on projects that are interesting and you care about, you love seeing that delivery. You love seeing your clients succeed. You love seeing the business side of things start using the product, or the user. You like seeing the rollout. You like seeing the transformation and things progress. And so knowing that and being part of that process day to day is what helps you get up and get things going, and given that motivation, because they do look to you as a consultant. They look to you to help answer questions or help resolve problems or just help drive things. And doing that every day and being part of a process that's improving their work and making things easier on them, or whatever the project you're working on, buying into it and being part of it makes it a lot easier to do that job.
All right. A few more hours, but we're gonna cut it short.
Don't want a cookie by then.
Yeah. So we hope that everyone will stick around for a few minutes. Aaron teaches our data-driven decision-making class. Is that what it's called? Yep. So this is our consultants.
Sorry, I tried to be here a little earlier and there was a lot of
No,
traffic.
well, you're here for the important part, which is the networking. And so just to get it started, I want everybody to choose a cookie and find, because there's 6 types over here. So you need to find someone with a matching cookie, and let's go with this. If you had to start a brand new hobby, this is something you've never done before, what would you do? And then we can move on to other topics, but let's start with that. So thank you so much. This has been really helpful. I'm gonna get this posted up for all the students that weren't able to attend tonight, because I think it's been really good information. So thank you.
Round of applause.
And if anybody wants to take them home, a few home to their kids.
Nathan, if I just make one comment where we ended.
Yes.
The nice thing about consulting, working for a company, is projects have a beginning and an end. So if you happen to have a client from hell, you will not be there forever. And there are some clients that really are difficult. They really are difficult. Most clients are pretty reasonable, and there are some that are very difficult. And those are the ones that are hard to get motivated, because they seem to change their mind every day. Somebody even mentioned that, having a client that was changing their mind every day, not knowing what they want, asking for reasonable stuff. But you'd say, oh, okay, I'll do the best I can, and in a few months, I'll probably be on another project.
Unless it's a tracking study.
Pardon?
Unless it's a tracking study.
Yeah.
But in that case, people move.
Right.
So I'm kind of in charge of trying to market this program. I've worked with Brody quite a bit and trying to get more students. It's a brand new program, and some of the things I've written down, and I did consulting, but I kind of forgot this, like how exciting it is. Like, it's stimulating. Like, you guys did a great job selling. I was like, why am I a professor?